Have you ever wondered why, despite thousands of years of religious teachings and endless modern self-help trends, humanity still wrestles with the same existential doubts? Why do we keep seeking freedom, yet feel so profoundly trapped? What if the real answers, the keys to mastering your mind, reality, and destiny, were hidden in plain sight all along, buried beneath the sands of ancient Egypt, encrypted in mystical texts like the Kybalion, and systematically erased by those who feared its power? This isn't just history. This is spiritual technology, designed to free your consciousness from invisible chains. In the next few minutes, you'll uncover why this ancient wisdom was buried and how reclaiming it might just shatter the illusions that have quietly controlled your life. Take a moment and really think about this. Why is it that in an age overflowing with information, guided meditations, manifestation workshops, and endless motivational content, most people still feel lost? Why does the anxiety return the moment the video ends? Why does the sense of lack creep back in after the affirmations fade? It's because what we now call modern spirituality has become a fast food version of ancient wisdom. It offers quick dopamine hits, but no real nourishment for the soul. The truth, these watered-down teachings are distant echoes of something far older, something far more profound, and something far more dangerous to the systems that profit from your confusion. This hidden foundation is Hermeticism, a lineage of spiritual science that predates every modern religion and bypasses the superficial promises of self-help gurus. But here's what no one tells you. Hermeticism wasn't designed for mass consumption. It's not a feel-good philosophy to sprinkle over a chaotic life. It's a demanding path, a blueprint for those who are ready to step beyond comforting illusions and face the raw mechanics of reality itself. The Emerald Tablets and the Kybalion aren't just poetic texts. They are encrypted manuals, carefully veiled to protect their secrets from misuse. These writings contain instructions for mastering not just your mind, but the very fabric of reality you inhabit. And yet, ask yourself, why have you probably never been taught this? Why is it that in schools, churches, and even modern spiritual circles, these teachings remain hidden or dismissed? Because true Hermetic knowledge doesn't just set you free, it makes you immune to control. A person who understands the principles of mentalism and vibration isn't easily manipulated by fear. Someone who grasps polarity and rhythm doesn't fall victim to the endless cycles of emotional highs and lows engineered by media and society. This is the hidden spiritual technology that empowers you to break the wheel, not just run faster inside it, but to wield it. You must first understand why it was hidden, and that's exactly where we're going next. Throughout history, the most dangerous knowledge has never been the kind that could build empires or destroy civilizations. It's the knowledge that could set the individual free. Freedom is a paradox. It sounds noble on the surface, but to those who hold power, true freedom is chaos, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and impossible to govern. And so the ruling classes of every age, from ancient priesthoods to modern institutions, developed a silent agreement: keep the masses searching for answers outside themselves. If people believe salvation comes from a priest, a king, a political leader, or even a modern-day guru, they'll remain obedient, dependent, easy to sway. Hermeticism teaches the exact opposite. It teaches that you are the center of creation, that within your mind lies the architect of reality, that by mastering your consciousness, you become sovereign, unshackled from the manipulations of external forces. Imagine for a moment what happens if an entire society awakens to this truth. Religions lose their unquestioned authority. Governments struggle to control populations motivated by inner purpose rather than external fear. Economies built on scarcity and lack collapse when people no longer seek fulfillment through endless consumption. That's why Hermetic knowledge had to be buried, not burned in public squares, because even that would draw too much attention. Instead, it was quietly erased from mainstream teachings, fragmented into esoteric orders, veiled in symbolism so dense that only the most persistent seekers could decipher it. Even today, this suppression continues, but in a far more sophisticated form. Now, you're kept distracted not by chains and dungeons, but by infinite scrolling, algorithmic dopamine hits, and the empty promises of one-day shipping happiness. They've perfected the art of making you feel like you're free, while keeping you deeply imprisoned by your own unconscious patterns. But the moment you start asking deeper questions, the moment you begin to understand these hidden principles, you become something rare, a person who cannot be bought, a mind that cannot be programmed, a soul that cannot be owned, and that is exactly why this knowledge remains hidden. But if you're still here, still listening, then something within you is already awakening. And to understand where this path leads, we must go back to where it all began, the temples of ancient Egypt. If you truly want to understand the roots of Hermeticism, you must travel beyond the dusty corridors of modern history, into a time when knowledge wasn't written plainly in books, but carved into stone, hidden in symbols, and passed through sacred initiations. This journey takes us to ancient Egypt. Within its towering temples and echoing chambers, a silent revolution of consciousness was unfolding. But it wasn't for the masses. This was knowledge reserved for the initiates, those willing to dedicate their lives to mastering not just the material world, but the unseen forces behind it. At the center of this hidden tradition stood a figure cloaked in mystery. Hermes Trismegistus. Was he a man, a myth, or something greater, an archetype of the enlightened master? Legends say Hermes Trismegistus was the living embodiment of Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, combined with the Greek god Hermes, the messenger between worlds. But whether he existed as flesh and blood or as a symbol is almost irrelevant. What matters is what he represents, the fusion of human consciousness with divine knowledge. And here's where things get fascinating. The teachings attributed to Hermes weren't simple spiritual guidelines. They were part of a sophisticated system of mental alchemy, designed to elevate consciousness and unlock the hidden mechanisms that govern reality itself. But why veil this wisdom in symbols and allegory? Because the power it contained was too potent and too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands. Imagine if someone with a corrupted mind understood how to bend reality through thought, how to manipulate emotional polarities, how to create chaos through the principle of rhythm, or enslave minds through hidden cause and effect. So the ancient priests devised a safeguard: conceal the knowledge beneath layers of metaphor. The pyramids, the Eye of Horus, the Ankh, these weren't just cultural artifacts. They were living symbols, each encoding layers of Hermetic principles meant only for those with the eyes to see and the discipline to understand. And over centuries, as the torch of this wisdom passed from Egypt to Greece, from Greece to secret esoteric orders, it remained hidden, carefully preserved for those who sought it with purity of intent. But if you think this knowledge stayed locked away in dusty temples, you're mistaken. Its fingerprints are everywhere, in every major spiritual tradition, in hidden texts, and even in the architecture of our modern world. Which brings us to the real heart of Hermeticism, the 7 principles that govern everything, and once you understand them, you'll never look at reality the same way again. These are not just abstract ideas. These are laws, unseen forces that shape your reality at every moment, whether you're conscious of them or not. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. And once you understand them, reality becomes something you can shape rather than something that shapes you. Let's unlock them one by one. Mentalism. All is mind. Everything begins in the mind. The universe, as strange as it sounds, is mental in nature. This isn't just esoteric poetry. It's echoed by modern quantum physics. The famous observer effect proves that reality doesn't exist in a fixed state until it's observed. Consciousness literally collapses probability into form. What does this mean for you? Your outer world is a mirror of your inner state. Every belief you hold about money, love, success is a command issued to the field of reality. If you constantly say, "I'm unlucky," reality doesn't argue. It simply says, "as you wish." Mentalism challenges you to ask, what unconscious commands am I broadcasting to the universe right now? Correspondence. As above. So below you've heard the phrase, but do you understand its depth? The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. What exists in the vastness of galaxies also exists within a single cell of your body. Fractals, sacred geometry, and even the holographic universe theory confirm this. Reality is self-similar across all scales. Look closely. Patterns. Repeat everywhere. Struggling with chaos in your external life? Examine the chaos within. Yearning for peace in the world. Cultivate peace in your thoughts. The world you see is not separate from you. It is you, projected outward. Vibration, everything. Vibrates, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Your thoughts have frequencies, your emotions radiate energy fields, and these vibrations attract experiences that match them like a cosmic tuning fork. When you feel stuck in negativity, it's not the universe punishing you. It's the law of vibration playing out exactly as it must. Higher frequencies bring clarity, joy, and synchronicities. Lower frequencies attract confusion, struggle, and stagnation. Want to change your reality? Don't start by trying to rearrange the external. Shift your internal frequency first. Polarity, everything has its opposite, light and dark, joy and sorrow, success and failure. Polarity teaches that opposites are simply extremes of the same thing. Heat and cold, for example, are not different substances. They're varying degrees of the same essence, temperature. Mastery comes not from avoiding negative emotions, but from learning to transmute them. Anger, when understood and harnessed, becomes raw fuel for decisive action. Fear, when faced head-on, transforms into courage. This is the true alchemy, not turning lead into gold, but turning suffering into wisdom. Rhythm, the dance of cycles. Everything flows, everything rises and falls, like the ocean's tides. Life operates in cycles. Success follows failure, growth follows destruction. But here's the secret most miss. While the masses are unconsciously pulled by these cycles, those who understand rhythm can predict and even influence them. This is why financial markets crash at predictable intervals, why wars and revolutions rise and fall in rhythmic patterns. The question is, are you a slave to the pendulum swing, or have you learned to time your actions with the hidden rhythms of life? Cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. Every effect has a cause. Every cause sets an effect in motion. You are not a victim of random events. Every experience you've had was set into motion by a prior thought, decision, or unconscious belief. Most people live their lives reacting to external events, never realizing that they are the original cause. Become conscious of this, and you step out of the role of victim and into the role of creator. Ask yourself, am I living as a cause, or merely reacting to effects? Gender, the balance of forces. This isn't about physical gender, it's about the masculine and feminine energies that exist in all creation. Masculine energy is assertive, active, and outwardly creative. Feminine energy is receptive, nurturing, and inwardly generative. Nothing is created without both. Ideas, masculine, must be received and nurtured, feminine, before they manifest into form. Look at any area of your life out of balance, whether it's relationships, work, or personal growth, and ask, am I too much in the doing and not enough in the receiving, or vice versa? Harmony between these forces unlocks the power to create effortlessly. Now that you understand these 7 principles, you're holding the same keys that ancient initiates protected with their lives. But these teachings didn't remain isolated. In secret temples, their echoes appear everywhere, even in the religions and philosophies you thought you knew. You might think Hermeticism is a fringe philosophy, something ancient and irrelevant to today's spiritual landscape. But what if I told you its fingerprints are hidden in plain sight, encoded within the very religion's billions of people? Follow today? Let's pull back the curtain. Christianity, the hidden logos and the duality of spirit and flesh. In the Gospel of John, it begins with a line that echoes directly from Hermetic teachings. In the beginning was the Word, Logos, and the Word was with God and the Word was God. The Logos isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a direct reflection of the Hermetic principle of mentalism. The Word represents divine consciousness manifesting reality. Christ himself embodies the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. His life is presented as the divine made flesh, a cosmic archetype mirroring the microcosm of human experience. The resurrection? That's alchemical symbolism. The death of the lower self and the rebirth of higher consciousness. Yet, over centuries, the mystical roots of Christianity were buried beneath rigid dogma, and its esoteric wisdom faded from the mainstream narrative. Islam, Sufi mysticism, and the vibrational power of prayer. While mainstream Islam focuses on discipline and devotion, Sufism, its mystical branch, dives into the vibrational nature of existence. Through practices like dhikr, the repetitive chanting of divine names, Sufis consciously raise their vibrational states, aligning with higher planes of consciousness. This is Hermetic vibration in practice, using sound and focused intention to elevate one's energetic field and commune with the divine. The whirling dervishes, they aren't simply performing a dance, they are literally engaging the principle of rhythm, spinning to harmonize with cosmic cycles and dissolve the ego into higher consciousness. Judaism, Kabbalah's tree of life as a Hermetic map. The Kabbalistic tree of life isn't just a mystical symbol, it's a map of consciousness itself. Each sephirot, sphere, represents an archetypal state of being, mirroring the Hermetic laws. Keter symbolizes pure mentalism, the infinite mind of God. Tiferet embodies the balance of polarity, harmonizing mercy and judgment. Malkuth, the final sphere, represents manifestation, the material world shaped by the unseen. The very path of the Tree of Life is an esoteric journey through the principles of mentalism, correspondence, and vibration, leading the initiate back to unity with the source. Hinduism, Brahman, Maya, and the cyclical dance of creation. In Hindu philosophy, Brahman is the ultimate formless consciousness, the source of all that is. Sound familiar? It's the Hermetic principle of mentalism expressed through a different lens. Maya is the grand illusion, the veil that makes the material world seem separate from the divine. It's the illusion Hermeticism teaches us to pierce through conscious awareness. And then there's the endless cycle of samsara, birth, death, and rebirth. The principle of rhythm echoes here. Everything flows through cycles, and freedom comes only when you rise above the unconscious patterns. Buddhism, impermanence and the transcendence of duality. Buddhism teaches that all things are impermanent, a concept directly aligned with the principle of rhythm and vibration. To suffer is to cling to what is constantly changing. Liberation comes when one sees through this illusion, and attunes to the deeper, unchanging consciousness beyond form. Even the concept of nirvana, the transcendence of suffering, is a form of mental alchemy, the ultimate transmutation of the human experience into higher awareness. These aren't coincidences, they're echoes of the same primordial wisdom. Hermeticism isn't just a forgotten philosophy, it's the hidden root system that nourished the spiritual traditions of the entire world. But if this knowledge is so universal, why was it nearly erased from history? To answer that, we must confront one of the darkest and most tragic chapters in humanity's quest for truth: the systematic destruction of the world's greatest repositories of ancient wisdom. History isn't just a record of what we've discovered, it's also a graveyard for what's been deliberately hidden, or worse, destroyed. And nowhere is this more apparent than in the systematic suppression of Hermetic knowledge. Let's begin with one of the greatest intellectual crimes in human history, the burning of the Library of Alexandria. This wasn't just the loss of scrolls and manuscripts, it was the erasure of entire civilizations' worth of wisdom, spiritual sciences, advanced mathematics, astronomy, and, yes, Hermetic teachings that explain the hidden mechanics of the universe. Can you imagine what humanity might have become if that knowledge had survived? But the destruction didn't stop there. As monotheistic religions rose to dominance, any teachings that empowered the individual, teachings that taught you didn't need a priest, a king, or a savior to find divinity, were seen as dangerous heresies. During the Inquisition, untold numbers of texts and oral traditions were wiped from existence. Those who practiced alchemy, Hermeticism, or Gnostic traditions were labeled heretics and witches, silenced through fear and execution. The esoteric knowledge that once flourished in mystery schools was driven underground, hidden in secret societies, like the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, and other closed circles of initiates. And while it's easy to view these as events locked in the past, the suppression never really ended. Today, it simply wears a more sophisticated mask. Instead of burning books, modern systems drown the mind in distraction, endless entertainment, divisive politics, and a materialistic culture that worships surface-level success. Educational institutions glorify rationalism and dismiss anything that can't be measured, weighed, or categorized. The result: you grow up believing that reality is a cold, mechanical process, and that anything involving consciousness or unseen forces is mere superstition. But deep down, you know that's not the whole story, don't you? You feel the pull of something forgotten, a quiet knowing that there's a deeper current running beneath the surface of this world. That's why you're still here, listening. But understanding this historical suppression is not enough. You must see how these same principles are being used against you right now, quietly, skillfully, and relentlessly. You may think humanity has moved beyond the days of kings and empires, that we now live in an age of freedom and open knowledge. But the truth is far more unsettling. Control has simply evolved. Today, it doesn't come from iron chains or royal decrees. It comes from subtle psychological manipulation designed to keep you distracted, divided, and spiritually asleep. And here's the most ironic part. The very Hermetic principles that were hidden to liberate humanity are now being used by powerful elites to keep you trapped. Mentalism. Master the mind. Control the masses. The media doesn't just report reality, it creates it. Every headline, every viral video, every carefully crafted narrative plants ideas in your mind, knowing that your mental focus becomes your lived experience. If you're constantly told the world is dangerous, you live in fear. If you're constantly shown images of scarcity, you begin to believe you're not enough. This isn't accidental. It's the calculated application of mentalism on a mass scale. Vibration. Lower the frequency, maintain control. Why do you think mainstream entertainment is saturated with fear, violence, and superficial desires? Low vibrational content keeps you stuck in survival mode, focused on competition, envy, and endless consumption. When you vibrate at low frequencies, you become easier to control. You don't question the system. You're too busy numbing your discomfort with material distractions. Fast food for the body, endless scrolling for the mind, empty validation for the soul. This is how an entire society is kept asleep while believing they're free. Rhythm and polarity, engineering cycles of chaos and calm ever. Notice how financial crises seem to happen in predictable waves, how social unrest rises and falls in carefully timed patterns. This isn't random. It's the principle of rhythm in action. Those who understand it know how to ride the cycles, triggering economic booms and crashes to their advantage. And polarity, it's used every day to divide and conquer. Left versus right, science versus spirituality. You're constantly pulled between opposing extremes, kept in a state of emotional reaction rather than clear, conscious thought. While you're busy fighting over illusions of separation, those who understand these laws stay above the battlefield, quietly orchestrating the game. But here's the truth they don't want you to realize. You don't have to play by their rules. You can rise above this engineered chaos. You can reclaim these hermetic principles for yourself, not to control others, but to master your own reality. This is the path to true empowerment, and it begins by rejecting the watered-down versions of spirituality sold to you as instant enlightenment, and embracing the disciplined, transformative power that Hermeticism demands. Are you ready to remember who you really are? By now, you've seen the hidden architecture of reality, the ancient blueprint that has quietly shaped religions, controlled societies, and influenced every corner of human history. But knowing is not enough. The greatest tragedy of modern spirituality is that it stops at awareness and rarely moves into mastery. You're told to raise your vibration, but not how to stabilize it when life falls apart. You're told to trust the universe, but not how to command your own mind when doubt creeps in at 2 a.m. You're told to manifest abundance, but not how to discipline your emotions when fear is louder than faith. This isn't real empowerment. It's spiritual escapism, beautiful on the surface but hollow underneath. True transformation isn't comfortable. It's not a weekend retreat or a viral affirmation. It's a daily commitment to face your shadows, discipline your mind, and consciously apply the Hermetic principles in the real world, when it's hardest, not just when it's easy. Mentalism demands you take full responsibility for every thought you allow to occupy your mind. Vibration requires you to become a master of your emotional state, choosing your frequency like a warrior choosing their weapon. Polarity challenges you to see beauty even in suffering and to transmute negative emotions into fuel for growth. Rhythm asks you to step out of reactive living and align your actions with the natural cycles of life. Cause and effect insists you become the conscious cause of your reality, not a victim of unconscious effects. Gender teaches you to harmonize action with reflection, creation with patience, discipline with surrender. This is the path of the true initiate. And make no mistake, it is not the easy path. It requires courage, relentless honesty, and above all, practice. But here's the secret few will ever realize. Once you begin this journey, even your smallest daily actions take on cosmic significance. Each moment of emotional mastery sends ripples through the field of creation. Each conscious choice becomes an act of personal alchemy. And over time, you'll notice something extraordinary. The reality you once thought was fixed begins to respond to you, not through magical thinking, but through the precise, disciplined application of ancient laws. You become a living embodiment of Hermetic wisdom, untouchable by the chaos of the world, because you finally understand you are the architect of it. The systems that have kept you asleep are crumbling, the illusions are wearing thin, and the path to freedom, it's been here all along, hidden in plain sight. The only question that remains is, will you walk it, or will you return to the comfort of forgetting? Because the moment you apply even a single Hermetic principle with full awareness, your life will never be the same again. And before you go, remember this: if everything is mind, who's really in control of yours? If this message awakened something deep within you, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit the like button to support this work, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts or the moment that struck you the most. And most importantly, share this video with your friends and family. Help them rediscover the forgotten knowledge that can set them free. Until then, stay awake, stay sovereign, and never stop questioning everything.